Sukugar. This is Tracer reporting on the latest from Boba Fett, the legendary bounty hunter who now seeks to become the Godfather of Tatooine. After killing Bib Fortuna and claiming Jabba the Hutt's empire, Boba has begun the process of slowly reintegrating the planet's businesses and trade under his rule. Unfortunately, a hit was called on him and he barely survived, once more being forced to rest in his back-to chamber. Fennec, however, successfully captured one of the assassins and force-marched him back to the palace, where it was learned he was a member of the Order of the Night Wind, a seemingly religious order of assassins on the payroll, similar to the Assassins of Masyaf during the Crusades. This is an even more telling comparison, as it was discovered that his employer was the second of my suspects, the Hutts. After all, the Sultans of Arabia did employ the assassins to eliminate rivals and enemy leaders. In fact, it was rather telling of the assassin's cunning, as he feigned fear of what turned out to be an empty Rancor pit in order to fool Boba and the mayor of Mos Espa into killing each other. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The mayor ultimately revealed that the assassin operated out of Hutt space and pointed him back to Garza Fwip, who revealed the arrival of Jabba's cousins, the twins. First, I find it interesting that the mayor warned Boba what was coming, and ultimately was not responsible for the hit on his life. While it's unclear why, I suspect that the mayor is attempting to cultivate an alliance of convenience in order to free his city of Hutt influence, but do it in a way that he retains his independence. Second, Garza Fwip was the first to know of the Hutt's arrival, which could mean she deals in information. Did she know then about the hit on Boba? Third, the twins were stated to be Jabba's cousins, and own his lands by blood and legal right, which makes me believe they may be the offspring of Zero the Hutt, Jabba's uncle. This would also mean they possess their father's holdings in the core, including on Coruscant. This does display a tremendous amount of political clout, enough that they brought on Black Karistan, the evil Chewbacca, as a personal enforcer. Interestingly enough, Boba and Karistan have worked together before. I suspect this was why he was employed. However, the twins chose not to take direct action against Boba, perhaps knowing how suicidal that would be, and have settled to play the long, silent game. In short, they played their hand far too early, and I suspect Boba will prepare in turn. Fennec then mentions that they will need permission to kill the twins, lest he call on the wrath of the rest of the Hutt Empire. I will discuss this more at the end of my report, as I wish to now bring in the great Gonzalez to update recollections on Boba's activities over the last 5 years. The reason for this has to do with this particular event's importance, and how it will tie into what Boba will do next. Gonzalez, you're up.
Yes, the great Gonzalez is back, here to shine, my knight samurai. After being adopted by the Cracker Box tribe, me and Mando Boba Fett was trained in the art of gaffy stick combat. And art he seems to take somewhat quickly, albeit not without getting slapped around by the Tusken lady for a bit. It is almost like a bow staff is something with a completely different grip from a lightsaber. Wouldn't you say? I swear the whole thing reminded me of that Tom Cruise movie where he fights around with the samurai and the Benton crowd. Anyway, just as he was getting the hang of me, these squiggly creatures, what seem to be called boo-boos, digs up from the sand and is chased around by the cracker boxes in their mastiffs for food. The creature, however, was not burrowing for no reason. It was shaken awake by an oncoming speeder train. Now, before any dumb doggos or gas masks wearing spice runners interrupt, there seems to be legitimate reasons to use a repulsor craft train. For instance, if you are transporting things between two cities on the same planet without drawing attention from anyone who may happen to be in orbit, it would be a good way to get your job done, especially if you have an exceptionally large amount of shipment to send. Carrying such a large amount would require a large-scale speeder or a spaceship, the latter of which would be logged in various settlements and would draw unnecessary attention from pirates, thieves, cutthroats, and most importantly, the Hutts. Using the speeder train as transport would be the quickest way to transport the goods on planet without drawing too much attention. The cracker boxes took up position, expecting trouble, which was proven to them correctly as the train had opened fire first, killing a number of their tribe and a few of their panthers. Similar to the trains of the Old West who would shoot at native tribes and their prey, the buffalo. Now it can be argued whether or not this first action is justified, as many crackerbox tribes do attack outsiders with just as little regard. However, one cannot judge a Tusken by his wrappings, and no two tribes are alike. Still, better safe than sorry if you ask me. Also noted that the engagement ranges were at least half a mile, whereas blaster bolts traveled with flat trajectory and were fired from a speeding train. That means that idiot statement by the foolish savage about bolts traveling as fast as baseballs was wrong. Foolish human, a baseball is not as fast as a train. Later that night, while cremating the fallen, Main Mando Boba spots some bikers headed for the outposts and gets an idea. He tells the chieftain he will return by morning and has an idea to destroy the train, taking with him only a training stick and a slug thrower rifle. He makes his way to Tashi Station, where the bikers, a group of Niktos, are causing a ruckus, disturbing two locals named Fixer and Cammy, who those in the deep know may recognize them as friends of native Bond Boy, Luke Skywalker, as well as fallen rebel pilot Beaks Darklander. They were, however, about to have the living skulls beaten out of them, as well as possibly worse happening to them pretty late, when the main Mando arrived and made quick work of the biker gang. He even beat one of them to death with nothing but the training stick. What a savage. Perhaps the cracker boxes are rubbing off on him. After he's done, he steals the speeder bikes and makes his way back to the village. But not before an eagle-eyed viewer can spot the logo on the bikes is the same logo on the homestead left by the graffiti mercenaries. Coincidence? I think not.
I will interject here for a moment. In my last report, we stated that these criminals were the Red Key raiders that Cobb Vanth encountered, and the aliens that Dejara and Ankara dealt with in the past. They do not appear to be connected with the Red Key upon closer examination, nor were they the same aliens as those other raiders. However, the two criminal groups do wear similar biker clothing, which leads me to suspect that they are perhaps chapters of a larger organization. Perhaps our version of Hell's Angels? Back to you, Gonzalez.
Returning the bikes to the Tuskens, their first reaction is to start picking them apart like a bunch of Jawas, like sticks off the same tree, I guess. And we wonder why they are losing their planet to the settlers. Boba, however, offers to train them to use them. After a few weeks of practice, turns the cracker boxes into an effective raider cavalry. Just what the locals needed, as if the Tuskens were not bad enough as it was. Anyway, the day came where the train came back. This time the Tuskens were ready, with Boba at the lead. What followed could only be described as being ripped from the pages of the Book of T.E. Lawrence, otherwise known as Lawrence of Arabia. As the darkness falls and the Tatooine goes, one man spreads his wings as the battle begins. May the land lay claim unto Boba's name. 7 pillars of wisdom light the flame.
Would you stop singing, Gonzalez?
My singing is greasy, sweet. Anyhow, the Mink Mando takes the engine and holds the droid engineer at gunpoint, who responds by basically giving him the finger and jumping out of the speeding craft, leaving Boba to crash and possibly kill himself. Kill himself, however, he does not. One way or another, he finds the brake to the train and destroys the vessel, taking Spice Runners as his prisoner. This is where we see the first signs of the man that the main Mando will eventually become, as the Sunday Daimyo shows his cruel mercy even in his days among the cracker boxes, as he gives each of his prisoners enough water to march back to civilization, to tell the others that no one is to pass through the Dune Sea without paying toll to the tribe. Considering that these men were members of the Pike Syndicate, we can expect this not to be the last we see of the Spice Runners. For the time being, the cracker boxes celebrate their successful raid. I think this is where the whole pay the toll to pass the Tuscan turf business came from, as we saw the same with Mando as he paid off a prize with some binocs. Boba started that. Now he's made them part of the planet's economy, so folks can trade for access to their turf, plus protection. And that's from what I heard about Mando hunting Fennec, information about what's in their turf. Anyhow, that night around the fire, the chief was so impressed by Boba's actions, he gives him a gift. A cute little lizard. This, however, was not a cute pet or maybe a snack, as with some magic dust thrown in his face, the creature climbs up Boba Fett's nose. Disgusting. Before he's told it's a guide and it will lead him from within. He then stripped balls for the next 3 days, wandering the desert and somehow coming back with a tree branch. To be honest, I have no idea what he saw or what went on in his head, and I am not brave enough to find out, especially as it involves the salmon cracker boxes. But this action is apparently enough for them to welcome him into the tribe. Anyhow, his branch was crafted into a gaffy stick before he is taken and wrapped in a full cloak as a member of the tribe, Boba of Tatooine. And to top it all off, they had a little dance. Not sure if it's an eagle dance or a hot foot dance. I don't know. You're trying to just figure it out.
There are a few other things I want to go over from Gonzalez's supplementary notes. First off, the lizard reminds me greatly of both peyote used by native tribes of North America, and of the Babel fish detailed in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that connects to its user's brain to translate alien languages. Must investigate further. Additionally, after interviewing the Tuscans, Gonzalez learned of the dream that Boba experienced while under the influence of the lizard. He approached a tree shrouded in a storm of rain and water. This is a reference to 3 things. First, in following with the other inferences to Moses, this resembles the burning bush of Yahweh, who sent Moses on his mission to free the Hebrews from the Egyptians. If we are being literal, the Force, or Mando, or whatever else it is giving Boba a new meaning to his life. This brings me to the second point. The tree's minds attempted to consume Boba like the Sarlacc as he hallucinates about Kamino. I feel the implication is clear. Boba's past as a bounty hunter and clone of Jango is consuming him, and only by breaking free of both will he outlive his father. He must become more than his father then. He must honor him by being better. Third, the Tuscans confirmed that once Tatooine was filled with oceans, which I feel is a reference to when the Rakatans thousands of years ago devastated the planet's ecology with virus bombs. What Boba is being showed is what Tatooine once was, and what it could be through him. This all leads into why Boba has decided to become a crime lord of Tatooine, but to do so with the goal of building relationships and ruling through mutual benefit rather than through fear. He has seen and experienced the chaos of the crime choking Tatooine, even having brought some of it himself when he operated in Jabba's employ. This is most notable when he showed disgust towards the spice smugglers and the biker gangs, and has chosen to give the Tuscans a place in Tatooine's economy, rather than being yet another warlord. This shows that Boba is becoming a crime lord not for the purpose of propagating crime, but to bring order and prosperity back to Tatooine, to make it that once prosperous world that he saw in that hallucination. This brings me to what he plans to do with the Hutts. He's going to pull a page out of Paul Atreides' book. On Arrakis, Paul Muad'Dib cultivated a powerful fighting force by unifying the local Fremen tribes that could even challenge the Emperor Sardaukar. However, what was key to his success was the manipulating of the Spice Guild into ironically aiding him, as Paul's victory ensured that the spice would continue to flow. Here, Boba must get permission to kill the twins, meaning he will need allies on Nal Hutta or manipulate factions into allowing his victory. More than that, though, he will need desert power, power that he spent the last 5 years cultivating. Also, the Tuscans are not a monotonous culture, and not all of them engage in kidnapping and torturing people, so stop comparing them with the savages who murdered Shmi Skywalker. I digress. With that, I conclude this report and await further events. Retorche me, Vod, out.